That's a stupid question, too.
It just drives me absolutely batty. You homer!
Oh, good.
Yes! 9 to noon.
You like that?
This is an old-fashioned ass-kicking right here.
And that's a fact.
Big boy's back!
Now, what did I do wrong?
Good stuff.
I know, right?
There are many, many positives I can get out of this game. Second down from the Vikings 48, first possession of quarter battle 129. Josh Jacobs, the single set. They're going to give it to him up the middle, and he makes a Viking miss as he heads to the right. He dropped it. It's a fumble. The Vikings got it. Yes, they did. Yes, Vikings ball. Josh Jacobs fumbled, and Cam Bynum came out of the crowd with the football, and the first takeaway goes the way of the 13-2 Minnesota Vikings. No huddle operation. Darnold looking to go on second down, and here he goes out of the shotgun. He pumps, fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Jalen Naylor with his 6th touchdown this season, and Sam has thrown 33, and the Vikings have a 6-3 lead. First and 10 from the Green Bay 18. The Vikings are chewing on the clock here in the third quarter. Play action, and Sam throws to the right, throws to Addison, caught, touchdown! Jordan Addison with his 9th receiving touchdown this year. The Vikings have a 19-3 lead. Sam Darnold goes out of the shotgun. Cam Akers joins him to his left. Jefferson left, 3 receivers right. Akers jumps to the right, now back to the left. Darnold out of the shotgun, takes the snap, swings it to Akers, turns it up to the 10, to the 5, touchdown! Cam Akers with his 3rd touchdown this season, and Minnesota responds beautifully and opens up the lead 26-10. Receivers left, 1 right. Love, yet to be sacked. Stands tall in the pocket. Vikings blitz. Love, sacked! Down goes Jordan Love. Blake Cashman with the sack. Blake Cashman with his 4th sack this year drove him back to make it 4th and 21, and Green Bay is punting. Ladies and gentlemen, how about this? Buffalo Wild Wings Eagan for the Friday football. Welcome to the feast, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, the 1 seed's at stake Sunday night. NFC 1 seed, division champions. It's all at stake Sunday night. What do you think about that, Vikings fans? Those of you in here wearing Honolulu blue, what do you think of that, Honolulu blue? Come on, you can clap. You're part of the covenant. All 2 of you. We want the 1. 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 Yeah, let's go with this Sunday night festivity. This is the Friday Football Feast on KFAN from Buffalo Wild Wings Eagan. He's Paul Charch, and I'm Paul Allen. Good morning. The master mixer and the engineer, ladies and gentlemen, a raucous round of applause for J-Dub, Jared Wells. Way back over there behind a pillar, Nick Madden and his street team here to serve your promotional desires. Round of applause for the KFAN street team. We want the 1. We want the 1. We want the 1. Yes, we want the conference 1 seed, and a rested team into the divisional round of the National Football League playoffs. That would be a couple of weeks from this weekend. And to get there, maneuvering by Motown is the A topic. So let's start focusing on some defenses, as in D's, to prosper in the D. And that would involve the Detroit Lions defense and Sam Darnold. Let's begin with the Lions defense. For an update on the state of Detroit's D, here is Paul Charchian. Good morning.
This is a terrible defense, Paul, that is racked with injury and has struggled against even mediocre offenses to this point.
Vikings fans, he said Detroit's defense is terrible. How about that? That's what he said. I heard him.
Here's what they've given up 3 of the last 4 opponents. Your non-Bears opponents over the last month have scored 31 points to Green Bay, 48 to Buffalo, and 34 points to San Francisco in a game in which no punter hit the field at any time in that game. And opposing quarterbacks slaughtering this team, including last week, Brock Purdy, 377 yards. They gave up over 300 yards to Caleb Williams in that Bears game.
Oh, geez.
This defense just riddled with injury. And honestly, this is a game where you could reasonably ask, will Ryan Wright see the field? Now, I don't want to get overconfident here, but this is a game against a defense that honestly most of these players are practice squad level players. Some of them were on the street at various times during this year.
Yeah.
And the Vikings offense, I don't want to make it sound easy, because it's never easy in the NFL.
It's never easy.
And Alex Anzalone might come back, which would really, really be a big boost for the Lions defense.
Most likely coming back, and he's a good blitzer.
But all that said, this is a game in which we should see a lot of scoring. It has the highest total over/under in 2 years.
Jeez.
Any game in the NFL.
I haven't seen it. Let me guess. 60.5.
Well, it got as high as 58.5.
Wow.
It's currently sitting at 57, Paul.
Holy cow.
Yes, that is a big, big number.
Yep. As the deep diving of the particulars with the minutia for this game go, indeed for the Detroit Lions, you wouldn't be here if you weren't elite football minds. If you're an elite football mind, round of applause for yourselves. Come on, you're all elite football minds.
I'm looking at a lot of elite football minds.
You listen
right
to
now.
9 to noon, okay? So therefore, you probably know this, but if you don't, let us share. Alex Anzalone is a linebacker for the Detroit Lions. He of the Andrew Van Ginkel hair variety, and he's been out quite some time. And with a forearm injury, he went to a full participant in practice yesterday. The absolute inside steam / anticipation is that he will play this weekend. He's a heart and soul guy for the Detroit Lions defense. If you think Aiden Hutchinson is the heart, then Anzalone's the soul. So them getting that back should help. But like Paul Charchian mentioned, there are some players roaming around for the Detroit Lions defense. Specifically, number 29, a cornerback named Kendall Vildor.
Oh, we know the book on Kendall.
And I knew when I said that name, Kendall Vildor, Paul Charchian can probably identify double moves put on him, not only by the Buffalo Bills, but back when he attempted to play for the Chicago Bears. Here's how strapped they are in the secondary to a certain extent. When Kendall Vildor played, now he played 6 snaps at San Francisco. All right. They don't want to use him, but they may have to use him because of some injuries. He played 6 snaps and 2 of them did not go his way. 2 games before that, Kendall Vildor was forced into action to play 70% of the snaps against the Buffalo Bills. The Lions defense almost gave up 50 points. Hey!
That's
How
what we
about
want to
that,
see.
Kendall Vildor?
That's what we want to see.
Yeah, Kendall Vildor terrorism.
And that's why you go 3 wideouts, 4 wideouts, because it forces Kendall Vildor on the field.
Right.
And if it's Jalen Naylor against Kendall Vildor, I will take that every day. I will find his number. I don't recall his number.
29.
29. I find 29 wherever he is on the field. Balls going that way. I mean, that is a massive, massive liability that the Vikings can exploit. And I want him on the field. I don't want them hiding Kendall Vildor. I want to force him on the field by going 3 and 4 wide.
You're being ruthless right now, aren't you?
Yes, we are going to dagger that guy.
Hey,
Yep.
KFAN's feeling so good about this whole thing. Nick Madden's street team decided this week we're going to throw into the crowd hoodies, which means
These are heavy.
If the announcer
Hurt somebody
throws
with-
one, and look at everybody at their table covering up their drinks right now.
You should. These are heavy.
If this thing comes through, it's going to be like a cannonball being shot out of the 9 to noon stage. Who wants a hoodie? Hey! Yeah, man. Nick Madden's street team brought some hoodies to get a little inside baseball with the game of football. Again, with the Lions defense. Before we move on to Darnold, Amik Robertson is a cornerback for the Detroit Lions.
Yep, slot corner.
He's an inside guy. He's pretty much, well, he prefers to be, and they prefer him to be strictly an inside corner, kind of where like Antoine Winfield used to play a lot. Byron Murphy Jr. plays a lot now for the Vikings. Well, they're so strapped with injuries in their secondary. Not only is Kendall Vildor playing 70% of games, they almost give up 50 points. Amik Robertson has been relegated to having to play outside, which means safety Brian Branch is now playing nickel for them. Ifeadi Melifonwu, who is a deep backup safety, he's only played a couple of games this year. He's playing a lot. And then you get to the dreaded Kendall Vildor part of the equation, and you're right. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings just absolutely have to make that whole carnage back there pay, and good morning.
Well, they do. And I feel like the path to victory here, Paul, is simply come up with like 2 stops of this great Lions offense.
Stop, score.
Yep. Just come up with 2 punt situations, 3 punt situations, because the Vikings should literally be able to score on almost every drive, 3 or 7 points, and just force the Lions to have to punt a few times in this game, and everything tilts to the Vikings' favor. And that's not asking a lot of a very good defense. And the Vikings defense, good enough to do that. And I feel like, again, I don't want to trivialize it, but this defense is legitimately awful, and all you have to do is get a couple of stops here, Paul. Let me raise this topic with you.
Yep.
I think it's safe to say this is the biggest regular season game in the history of Minnesota Vikings football.
Might be.
I don't think there's another one that's close, given the stakes that are on the line.
Yeah.
Right? The differential between being a 1 seed and all the advantages that come with it. The bye week, the home field throughout. You get that week of rest, everything. Not having to play one extra game, the whole thing, versus the 5 seed and going on the road. When I raised this topic with our friends Mitch and Paulie on VSiN yesterday, they said, whoa. This is the biggest regular season game in the history of the NFL.
Okay.
And,
I haven't gone through the annals of regular season games. It's hitting me in agreement with you, simply because of the implications and or ramifications. Then you're looking at a couple of 14-win teams. That's never happened before, so therefore the historical wherewithal would mesh with the hype-related wherewithal, which generally leads to the right answer.
And here's some of the data to back that up, to your point, Paul. This is the first ever regular season game between 2 teams that have won at least 13 games. These teams have won 14 games.
Yeah.
So here you are at the final week of the season, the stakes between the 1 and the 5 seed. You've never had 2 better teams meeting in the regular season in the history of the NFL. This is just the 4th game in NFL history in which both teams are 10 games over 500.
Yeah.
And in all of the other 3 meetings, Paul, the winner has gone on to win the championship.
Wow. That's deep diving minutia right there, and it just further amplifies what we all know is a very big moment on Sunday night. The other D in the equation is Sam Darnold. We'll chat about him with our first guest, Alec Lewis, around the corner. Don't think old Sam has faced this type of fan related vitriol that's going to be in his and their faces on Sunday from Ford Field, and we'll do that during the course of the Friday Football Feast with Paul Charchi, and I'm Paul Allen. The Skull Line will take us into break, ladies and gentlemen. The Skull Line is at Buffalo Wild Wings Eagan. Skull Line, take it away. Hey. Hey. We want the 1. We want the 1. You're listening to the Friday Football Feast on KFAN. back to the feast, the Friday Football Feast at Buffalo Wild Wings Eagan. A weekly contributor to the feast, generally on site, but now on air, online, on demand, on fire, and on the phone is Alec Lewis with The Athletic and theathletic.com. He also does a popular podcast called The Alec Lewis Show. And Alec joins us for a segment to chat about Sunday and the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions. Hey, buddy, as a beat writing juggernaut, Alec Lewis, do you permit yourself to make that, all right, 3-2, as a beat writing journalist, do you permit yourself to become excited for Sunday night? And good morning.
Good morning. I told Nordo this, but I'm very upset that I'm not there. I don't want to be breaking up any mojo. We have had such a fun time all year. At least I have. I can only speak for myself. Do I allow myself to be excited for this weekend's game? I mean, yeah, there's no choice. This is why you do this. Like, I've said this both in writing and on Twitter. Like, this is, I mean, you know me. You know that I can barely sleep. I mean, I've had two of the worst nights sleep that I could ever have, and I know you're objective and you don't have a dog in the fight, but I mean, how fun has this been? Not only for, I mean, I know how fun the team has had. I see it every day. I know how much fun you've had because I get to hear you almost every day. And for me specifically, I mean, you, like I was saying to myself driving to the facility the other day, it's not guaranteed that you get to cover seasons like this where the town is as into a team as this one is. So I am stoked. I can't hide I can't hide that for one second, honestly.
At the University of Missouri, specifically that super well-respected journalism school, what year do you encounter the class where it teaches you to keep your emotions tempered as a juggernaut beat writing journalist covering a game, yet the level of excitement is that of a rube, it's that of a fan? Was that your junior year or what?
I think it might have been J1010 freshman year. I mean, they try to hammer it into you pretty early that you're not rooting for these teams. It is objective. You're asking the hard-hitting questions. I mean, but look, human nature has to win too. And I may or may not have told Nordo that I would say that to you. But I mean, look, like honestly, I at Mizzou didn't get to cover a lot of good teams. So it's pretty easy to be objective. And when I've told this to a lot of people, and you know this as well as anybody because you're around these guys, and I see you in the locker room frequently as well. And I know you talk to coaches and staffers as much as I do. But I mean, when you're around a team with this many great people and people that you want to root for, yeah. It challenges that every day. And that's not to say that if there is a bad play call, if there is a bad fumble, if there is a bad interception, we're not going to critique the heck out of it. But, what they don't teach you and what you can't be taught is what it is like to be around a special season. This is it. And so you just be authentically you. And for me, that is enjoying it as much as I am.
Amen.
Hi, Alec. If we go back to Friday Football Feast #1 in Oakdale, the three of us were talking about our outlooks for the season. And Alec, what I clearly remember you saying is this defense is going to be really good. And you were very optimistic about the season in part because of that. But even with that level of optimism, and I think you and Paul were both extremely optimistic about this season, more so than I think almost any Viking fans. This still, I don't think this was on anybody's play card. I mean, give me a sense of how, to me, this feels very surreal. Like if we played out this season 100 times, we'd be here 2 out of 100 times. I mean, just what's the level of overachievement, or what's the level of surprise that you have that this team is sitting at 14 wins in the biggest regular season game that they've ever had at the end of the season as we face Sunday's game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a historic level of overachievement. I think you're giving me more credit than I probably deserve in terms of my optimism level. I mean, I will say, I remember, the day they signed Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, and it happened pretty quick and back-to-back. And I remember getting a text after those two guys signed that here comes a linebacker, and it was Blake Cashman. And you watch some of the tape of those guys, and you can be pretty impressed. But I mean, it's really every aspect. It's the production. It's the chemistry together. It's the health that has been pretty constant for all those guys, and none of that is guaranteed. I mentioned those guys, but I mean, this season is about Sam Darnold. Like, that's just unavoidable because I think it's the quarterback position, so the question always exists. And I will tell you, just having talked to people inside the building who have worked very closely with Sam Darnold this past week specifically, I mean, I don't think you can, overstate the amount of discipline this guy has and the amount of work that he puts in. This is not just some out of nowhere tale story. Like, you see him on a Wednesday night when most guys have left the building, when most guys would be with their families, and he is rehearsing the play calls that they learned that day and the game plan for that day on his own with Josh McCown, with Grant Udinski, the quarterback's coach, the assistant quarterback's coach. And it is every single day a relentless pursuit to be as good as he's been. And then, I mean, you guys both know this, but the turning point to me was the Jacksonville game. I mean, he'd thrown 2 interceptions the week before against Indianapolis. He threw 3 interceptions in Jacksonville. They ended up winning that game. And it's funny because I think even me as a reporter, you look for this one moment after that was reflective of the arc that he's taken since that point. But the reality is he just stuck to the process that they've taken all year because they've been so convicted in the process that they've had. And it speaks to Kevin O'Connell's standard. It speaks to the connectivity of the guys in the room. So yes, it is an unbelievable historical kind of overachievement. But I think when you really peel the layers back and you know both the energy inside the building and the passion and the discipline that a lot of these guys have, it's just hard for it not to make sense, honestly.
You mentioned Sam Darnold and Jared Goff. For Darnold, this is the biggest game of his career by a mile. It's the same for most of the Vikings. Jared Goff's been to a Super Bowl. This is not the biggest game of his career by a mile. He's been to a Super Bowl. Do you feel like that differential in experience for these two quarterbacks will come into play on Sunday night?
I mean, maybe. There's no question. This stage is, for Sam Darnold, it's everything beyond. I mean, USC is incredibly impactful games at USC is probably the closest he's gotten to this point. But the reality is, and you know this, Charch, down the stretch here, all of these games have been playoff atmosphere, playoff environments, and they have required Sam to be as good as he can be in some of these moments. So it's funny you mentioned that Super Bowl because Jared Goff played Brian Flores in that Super Bowl, and the Patriots had success against him. What's fascinating to me, I mean, you go back to the earlier matchup between these two teams earlier this year. I mean, Jared Goff in that game was just incredible. I believe he completed 22 of 25 passes. I remember talking to one of the defensive staffers after the game, them being like, I mean, look, if he's going to play at that level, it's going to make it really difficult. So one of the things for me that I think is so interesting about this game is what is the curveball that Brian Flores tries to throw? I mean, last week he did it successfully, playing man coverage early on against Matt LaFleur, more early and more often than Matt LaFleur would have ever expected. I don't know what other tools or tricks Brian Flores really has at his disposal. I don't know if it's just heating Jared Goff relentlessly or playing drop 8 more than you would ever expect. But I am very interested to see what that looks like on this stage, in this environment, because Brian Flores has something.
YA, young Alec, at Alec_Lewis via the tweet machine, covers the Minnesota Vikings for The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. He also has a podcast, The Alec Lewis Show. It has a Twitter handle, and you can find it on YouTube. Just a few here to close for the scribe, Alec Lewis. So now you have Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta. Let's focus on that quartet with one question. Of those 4, which is the most lethal and why?
Yeah, I think it's Jahmyr Gibbs, because if you cannot limit him in the run game, then everything is is open for them, and they use play action more than any other team in the NFL. And as you guys know, the Vikings use it a lot, and they use it very effectively. It allows the quarterback more time to read the defense. It provides more space over the middle of the field. So stopping Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, is an immense challenge. He ran a 45-yard touchdown in that first matchup, kind of toe tapped, put Cam Bynum in a blender type situation. It's the longest run against the Vikings all year. So limiting his explosive plays, to me, is where I start. But, I mean, it's a good question because those other three guys are really freaking good. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, incredible route runner, possession receiver. Sam Laporta has really come on down the stretch. And then Jamison Williams is just a freaking burner. So, I mean, it's tough. But I go Jahmyr Gibbs. I'd be curious what you would say to that, though.
Well, I would agree with you in just marginal fashion because he catches and runs. Now, it's off. You're curious to see what Flores has up his sleeve because ever since Goff had that 5-interception game, throwing what would be determined a bomb, deep shots like that, they just don't do it. And it's brilliant what they're doing. Because they'll go on 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 play drives to keep their defense on the field because nobody, including Lions staffers, want to see Kendall Vildor. So what they're doing is very, very key. Now, when it comes to Gibbs in blitz pickup, pass protection, that's a different situation than maybe him running and or catching, but they're so fast, they don't put him in that spot frequently. All right, last one for me. Speaking of Flores and Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions. At The Athletic, Alec wrote a story a few days ago, about Flores and Ben Johnson in a matchup made for this type of moment. A fantastic story, theathletic.com if you're interested. For those who missed it, what were some things that were pertinent to you in that story, YA?
Yeah, well, I went back and just rewatched the film of that first game, and I remember talking to players and coaches after it. It was very interesting, but it was so revealing because like the Vikings were dominant defensively in the first quarter, and then the Lions were dominant offensively for the second and third quarters, and the Vikings were dominant again in the fourth quarter. So it was this. I mean, that first matchup was this. Just mano-a-mano adjustments being made on the fly. And I had a really interesting conversation. I remember, and I'll never forget this, after that game with the Vikings defensive player. And he's like, what you have to understand about an offensive staff like that, like Ben Johnson, the Lions are, is they have a similar level of continuity and smarts that we do defensively. And so they can adjust very quickly. And so, I mean, the Vikings really on a possession basis in this game and earlier in the game that they played earlier in the season, they have to weigh like, okay, we are having success doing this, but we know they are going to adjust against this. So do we try to get ahead of their adjustment by adapting early? And that's kind of like the chess match that goes on in a matchup like this with two teams that are as well coached as this one. So, I mean, it's as good as it gets from a matchup. And it's funny because I wrote that story and people were like, what about Kevin O'Connell versus Aaron Glenn? And I'm like, guys, I don't know. I mean, the Lions have given up more explosive passes defensively than any team in the NFL in the last 4 weeks. And you guys are pretty sharp, and and so do the listeners, that the Vikings have an exceptional amount of confidence and conviction in their passing game right now. The Lions also play more man coverage than anybody. The Vikings have the highest efficiency against man coverage. So that matchup is very different to me than the one on the other side of the ball.
Time for one more.
I hope this doesn't end up being a factor in this game, but I want to talk to you about the Vikings kicker, Will Reichert. When I went back and watched the previous Lions game, he came into that game and through that game having never missed a kick of any kind through that game. I think he finished the game 31 of 31 on the season to that point. But over the last 5 games, Will Reichert is a 58% make on field goals. That's it. What is your confidence level? And this thing could easily come down to kickers. This easily could. What's your confidence level in Will Reichert right now based on the guy that we've seen? And what's your level of concern about whether or not he's going to be up for what could be a very high-pressure kick at the end of a very important game for a rookie kicker?
Yeah, it's the right question to ask. And as I was going through everything for this game yesterday, I thought similarly, like, we're not going to talk about the special teams units because we never do, and doesn't make for sexy radio all the time. But I really think the special teams aspect of this game could be the deciding factor because of how razor thin the margins are. You asked about Will Reichard, and you know my background, Charch. I'm from Alabama. Will Reichard is from about 15 minutes from where I grew up. I've known this guy for a decade, if not longer. What I hope people know is that Alabama, before Will Reichard got there, had a cursed kicking history under Nick Saban. It's just the reality. Like, kickers would not go to Alabama because they felt like it would ruin their career. He embraced that challenge. In fact, his friends told him not to go. He decided against it, became the most successful college kicker of all time, kicked and made field goals in some of the most high-pressure environments possible, including last year in the Rose Bowl against Michigan. So with knowing that history, knowing kind of his mental makeup, my concern level isn't probably at the level that it is for those of you like you, Charch, who have watched this team and know the history of this position with this team. I just know the guy, what he's made of. And so for me, it's not this grave concern that could come back to haunt me. I said that on my podcast earlier this week, but I know what this guy's about. I know that he does it for more than just himself in terms of why he kicked in the first place. So I don't have a crazy concern about it. And I'm also, some of this may tie to the fact that again, as we started, like you're just trying to enjoy it. I'm not going to allow myself to go crazy in terms of worry around this time. It just, it's all positive, affirmations for me.
Are Alabama and Arkansas heated rivals as college football would go?
I mean, not really. You got one great team and one team.
Okay. Well, why I brought it up is Jake Bates, beloved Baked Jates for Detroit. Well, he's from Arkansas in his first full year. He missed 2 extra points against San Francisco, 2 of 4 on extra points at San Francisco. So let's not forget about the other side of the kicking equation for a man who, by the way, has made 60 of 63 extra points this year, both NFL highs. All right, safe travels, and I'll see you in the D, and I'll see you at Ford Field on Sunday. Thank you very much, Alec.
Yeah, thank you guys. And to the folks listening, I mean, really, it's hard not to get caught up in like the future or the past or what could be or but I mean, really, you get these things like, it's no guarantee you get them again. So I hope we all kind of enjoy it. And I appreciate you guys as always. Charch, looking forward to seeing you, as well down the road. PA, I will see you soon. You guys have a great show.
Yep. Bless you, brother. Thank you very much. Alec Lewis from The Athletic and theathletic.com at Alec_Lewis via Twitter, if you would be so inclined to follow him, as 9 to noon does. Vikes Bites are next, and you're listening to the Friday Football at Buffalo Wild Wings Eagan on KFAN.
Man.
It just drives me absolutely batty.
Vikes Bites for you now. Eric Nordquist, Matt producer, guides the Great Ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN and the vast and ever-expanding 9 to noon radio network. And he's going to lead us with Vikes Bites. Good morning.
Good morning. Vikes Bites, by the way, is always provided by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef.
beep, 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 beep.
I love all of you at Buffalo Wild Wings Eagan. I wish I was there, but I do love Thousand Hills, Matt and everybody. It's a Clearwater, Minnesota company. Proud sponsors. Go for sports.
For that help on the beef, Paul Charchian's going to pick up your tab and give you $100, okay? Thank
No
you.
problem.
God bless.
Yeah, all of you.
Yep, go ahead.
Beers on Charch, ladies and gentlemen. Love that idea.
You should be here, Nordo.
I should be, and I love. I'm thankful
You should be here.
into this weekend, Vikings and Lions, that TJ Hawkinson's going to be here, and I have some audio from him talking. Hey, you think about that injury at all? You think about the Kirby Joseph knee knock from last year when you go into this weekend?
No, I mean it's injuries happen in this game and in this league, and I've had multiple injuries throughout my career, and things you just don't think about. I mean, I've played against many teams that I've had things go against, and it's just a new game. It's another game, and it's I'm excited to play them for sure, and I'm excited to be out there with the boys this time around, and be able to make an impact that way. But nothing like that really goes in your head. You got to just let that kind of stuff go and realize it's football and it's another game.
So, Charch, I talk to PA. I see PA every day. I don't see you or talk to you quite as often. So I'm going to direct a lot of these at you. And my first thing is, with TJ Hawkinson back, what kind of impact does he make, given that he wasn't a part of the initial matchup earlier this year?
Alex Anzalone coming back is a huge factor for TJ Hawkinson. Anzalone is one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. He is super rangy. He's Paul compared him earlier to Andrew Van Ginkel.
Well, yeah, because of the hair.
The hair only. Okay.
Well, and the name mix-up earlier this year too.
Maybe that too. He's fast. He picks up tight end assignments a lot, and having him back will make things a little bit thornier for TJ Hawkinson. Now, you also mentioned the other guy that does that covers a lot of tight ends, Kirby Joseph. Kirby Joseph is the guy who went low on TJ Hawkinson. He's a grade A cheap shot artist. Yeah, he ended Hawkinson's season. He ended Tyler Higbee's season last year. Lions fans will just say, well, he's just physical. We think that he aims for knees, and we don't like him. But Kirby Joseph is really, really good, unfortunately. 9 interceptions so far to lead the NFL. He's got just 2 touchdowns allowed. He's giving up a 59% completion rate. And get this, Nordo, Kirby Joseph, starting every game this year, has given up 95 yards after the catch all year. That is an average of 5 yards per game in catches and in his coverage after the catch. He is a great tackler. So that is a huge X factor here for TJ Hawkinson, is that combination of Kirby Joseph and Alex Anzalone that could make things tough on opposing tight ends like TJ Hawkinson.
Well, let me expand on that then. With Alex Anzalone returning, how much can be expected of him in turn? He hasn't played since mid-November. It's more than 6 weeks now. Is this a thing where you think he's jumping in, playing 100% of snaps? He's out there on every down or every need, or is this a spot where they're kind of pushing him in slowly? I mean, we're talking nearly 2 months that he hasn't played.
He hasn't played, right. But the nature of his injury, which is a broken arm, you got to assume that it's unlike, say, a knee injury where you couldn't run and you couldn't do your full rehab, couldn't have all the aerobic exercise. He should be in really good shape, and it's just whether or not how much he's going to play with a cast on the arm. How much does that cast affect him? Does he maybe miss a tackle because he can't wrap up right because of the cast? I mean, that might be your X factor for Anzalone. I don't think it's going to be smarts or ability or rustiness. I think it's going to be, does the cast end up messing him up? Does he drop a possible interception or not make a tackle that he might have otherwise made?
Vikes Bites! Thank you, Thousand Hills. Some audio from Justin Jefferson talking about Jordan Addison.
Jordan is Jordan, man. He's a baller. He's a solid killer. He's like the ninja on the team. He's not gonna say too many words, but he's gonna ball whenever he needs to ball. His maturity, I feel like, has grown. Like any rookie, on their second year, just the things that he's doing is a little bit differently than he was doing last year as a rookie. But he's just continue to ball and continue to try to learn every single day.
How impressive Charch has been in his first 2 seasons. He is sitting on a total of 19 receiving touchdowns in just over 30 games, Charch, and the impact. We talked about it early in the season. We used some Jefferson audio, in fact, kind of laying out like they kind of it sounds like they're trying to will him into games, that they're working to keep him mentally engaged in the mix, but he's done nothing but show up and perform at a high level.
A total of 20 touchdowns. You mentioned 19 receiving. I think he's got a rushing in there as well. Get this, Nordo. And you can play along at home. How many players all time have 20 touchdowns in their first 2 seasons at the wide receiver position? The question is, the answer is 11 all time. That's where Jordan Addison is history of the league. And if he scores a touchdown on Sunday, he'll move into a tie for 10th with Harlan Hill and A.J. Brown. If he scores twice on Sunday, he'll move into 8th with Jamar Chase. I mean, we're talking, the players around Jordan Addison right now are Hall of Fame level players that have scored 20 touchdowns in their first 2 seasons, and we've got a game to go. So, what Jordan Addison has been able to accomplish, really remarkable. It's also a tribute to Sam Darnold, but where Addison, I think, has really changed in year number 2, the separation. I mean, how many times do we see him with 3, 4, 5 yards of separation to the nearest player? His route running and ability to spring free has been tremendous. And, right now, we're starting to get into a conversation about where Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are as 1-2 combinations across the entire league, because there aren't that many that are in this class.
Now, to put it in perspective in truncated fashion, through 2 seasons, Jordan Addison has more touchdowns than Justin Jefferson. We see what Justin has done during the first half decade of his career.
Vikes Bites! So I was watching, after the Wolves loss last night, I was watching the first meeting. They were re-airing it on NFL Network. And the Vikes had the ball. If I was doing Nordo's numbers, thanks to my buddies at zonecoverage.com, I'd be doing the number 416, as in how much time was left in the game. The Vikings have the ball, a couple Aaron Jones runs, and then a Darnold laser over Jefferson's head on 3rd and 4. The Vikings go 3 and out. Ultimately, the post punt, the Lions cruise down. They kick a field goal with Mr. Bates, and they take the lead and win the game. So the focus is on defense, and we're talking about, and I want to get to Blake Cashman momentarily as well, but how much of this Charch is really the Vikings offense not stopping themselves and getting out with a victory on Sunday night?
I think it's a lot of it. This is not to keep beating this drum over and over again, but this is a defense that will not stop you. You need to just not give the game to the Lions defense. And as long as you don't create turnovers that you don't have to, whether it's Aaron, unfortunately, we haven't talked about an Aaron Jones fumble now for like 5 weeks, which is great. Let's not give them turnovers. Again, this is a team that's allowed over the last 5 weeks the most passing yards and the second most passing touchdowns. I mean, just don't give them the ball. Finish your drives with 3s and 7s, and that's how the Vikings win this game. I don't think this is a group. This is a defense, depleted as it is, that's talented enough to stop you very often. So yeah, I just think that's Nordo, it's a great question, and it's a biggest part of this is don't give the game away.
Right.
Don't create unnecessary turnovers. Don't stop yourself. Don't sail a first down throw over Justin Jefferson's head. And that's how the Vikings go win this game. And I feel like if we're going to be talking about a loss next week at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage, let me mention that we will be having a feast. Regardless of whether the Vikings win or lose, we will be at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage next week. If we're talking about a loss, I think we'll be talking about how the Vikings gave the game away by doing things that they didn't have to do to put the Lions in a position to succeed.
Vikes Bites. Well, Charch, maybe a reason if we're talking next week at the following feast, why the Vikings lost. I mean, Penei Sewell catching passes. Amon-Ra St. Brown threw a TD earlier this year. What's your? I saw you on your notes, and you hit it with Alec. What was it? The appropriate level of concern regarding Will Reichard. What is the appropriate level of concern regarding the trick play with these kiddies, man?
I know they unfurled one on Monday night. And I'm thinking they did the hook and lateral.
Yep.
And I'm asking myself, why do that? Why show that on Monday Night Football coming up to the Vikings game? Why not keep that in the arsenal,
Yeah.
And I guess now the Vikings have to, the Vikings coaches have to be ready for that. But it gives the opportunity for the Vikings to do that. And look, this is part of why people love the Lions. Nationally, people want the Lions to win this game. They are a fun team that tries crazy things, like you'll remember. First game against the Vikings earlier this year, they did a fake punt on their own 30-yard line to open the game. I mean, the fact that Dan Campbell is by a margin, the highest risk coach there is quantifiably incredibly fun for fans to watch.
Yeah.
People love it. All the trick plays. It's offensively and defensively, all the things that they bring to the table. It makes for a ton of fun, and you can't necessarily know what's coming. I'll be disappointed if we don't get some strange stuff from the Lions. But let me ask you this, Nordo.
Yeah.
NPA. These teams could meet again. I mean, this might not be the last time the Vikings and the Lions play. NFC Championship game could come right back through these two teams, one place or the other. They might want to leave a couple of things behind in the playbook and not do everything right here, knowing there's another chance these teams meet.
Well, you know what's crazy too, Charch, is it could happen in 2 weeks. Let's play this out. The Vikings win on Sunday night. That'd be amazing. And I have a question off of that in itself. But if the Eagles and then the Rams, whoever the 2 and 3, it'd be the Eagles at 2, and whoever the 3 seed is, it feels like it'll be the Rams, but we'll see.
It'll be the Rams, yeah.
So they win, and then that means Detroit had to go down to Tampa, and they beat the Bucs. We're hosting the Lions in 2 weeks. It's actually that easy, and it's you don't have to weave your way through all of these odd concoctions and results. It could just be they go down and beat the Bucs. See you in 2 weeks, Detroit. Like, how crazy is that?
That's if everything's, and that's all chalk. I mean, that's if probability happens, it'll go exactly that way. And these teams are meeting again in 2 weeks.
And they got to hold some toys they got to hold some toys in the back pocket. There's no doubt about that.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And as part of that, Vikes Bites, and maybe I guess I don't know how the show's going to play out this morning. You might expand on this later as well. But it's a win and in for the North. It's a win and in for the 1 seed. Is this a win and in for Coach of the Year as well? Dan Campbell and of course Kevin O'Connell.
That's a great question. The Vegas odds have skewed heavily towards Kevin O'Connell. He's minus 1,000. Dan Campbell is plus 550.
He went to a 10-1 favorite.
10-1 favorite.
Oh,
yes.
geez.
So I think the betting line is so disparate right now. I don't think one game will change it, but it could.
Is it disparate?
It is very disparate, Paul. So yeah, I think I don't think it'll change ultimately. I think Kevin O'Connell's going to win no matter what, but maybe not. It would certainly open up the door for Dan Campbell to win, especially if it's a one-sided affair.
Vikes Bites, thank you, Thousand Hills, lifetime grazed, grass-fed beef.
And thank all of you for taking in Vikes Bites and coming out to Buffalo Wild Wings Eagan for the Friday Football Feast. We are into the second hour of the presentation. A couple of things in the middle portion of the show. A dear friend of mine, Jason Hatch, who is a lifetime Detroit Lions fan. He joined 9 to noon at the Great Minnesota Clomp together for the Great NFC North debate. Did a great job. He's here, so he'll join us about 20 minutes from now to give the Lions perspective. And then after that, yours truly, your hyperactive announcer, Jared, the master mixer, he has brought a wireless microphone, and yours truly is going to traipse his way through Buffalo Wild Wings and put some people on the radio and ask some questions and spread some New Year's cheer. That'll be at about 10:40, 10:45. With Paul Charchi, and I'm Paul Allen. You're listening to the Friday Football Feast from Buffalo Wild Wings Eagan on your home for everything funky and fun and 14 and 2 radio, FM 100.3, KFAN.